You know, this is exactly how horror movies get started.
What?
Young girl, alone, following a mysterious gent who emerges from an anonymous blue box into a dark corridor. Recipe for disaster in my experience.
Well, what have you experienced?
Thought I was rid of him and the truth. Then he resurfaces, and he reminds me that I was an assassin instead.
You're not gonna last 5 seconds.
Jessica, stop!
Are you gonna stop me?
How do you think they survived after the war?
Why?
Because it was time, Doctor!
You might just want to get used to looking over your shoulder, because every time you do, you're gonna see me!
If I didn't know better, I'd swear that was a threat.
Watch me.
Catch me!
Hello, Doctor Who fans, and welcome to the very first Doctor Who themed podcast here at Fan Film Follies. My name is J.E. Smith, or Jeff to my friends. I write the regular Doctor Who column here at Fan Film Follies, and am very pleased to be able to contribute this first podcast. Our guest today is John Reid Adams, the star and writer and co-producer of the excellent new Doctor Who fan film called A Survivor's Triangle. We talked to John recently, and we appreciate his submitting to be the very first subject for this new experiment. Along those lines, I hope you will forgive some growing pains on the technical side. There were a few glitches very early on in the recording. I was getting some odd feedback from some aspect of the machinery. There are a few little bits of reverb, etc., towards the beginning of the podcast, but things do calm down about 10 to 15 minutes in. So I hope you enjoy it, and I hope to be back for more in the future. Thanks. All right, well, our guest is John Reid Adams, the writer and star of the cool new fan film called A Survivor's Triangle. And John, you are the guest on our very first podcast, and thanks for coming on.
Oh, thanks for having me.
Well, so I understand you were an old school Doctor Who fan, is that right?
Yeah, well, definitely I've been an old Who fan ever since the TV movie in 1996. Me and Pete kind of laugh about it, like going, actually, I'm more like Limbo Who, because that was that dead period when the show ended in '89,
right,
and before it came back in 2005. So, you can call me Limbo Who all you want, but I'll just avoid the complications, just say old Who.
Right.
But whenever anyone asks, who's my doctor, I just default, and because I think he needs more love, I just say Paul McGann's my doctor, because he was the first doctor I ever saw.
Now, since after you saw the TV movie, did you go back and explore the old stuff?
Oh, most definitely. I remember my very first video I ever got. I bought The Demons with John Pertwee,
right,
and fantastic story. It was the last episode of the season where basically that whole season was all about the Master, and that was the last story of that series.
Right.
Yeah, fantastic episode. But I remember the very first classic episode I saw on TV was Inferno, episode 6, and if you want to jump into the classic series, Inferno is a fantastic story.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, so now, did you decide to do this fan film before the new series, or was it because of the new series?
Actually, at the time, I came up with the idea to do it when the second series had come and gone. At that time, I was only able to watch it on YouTube,
right,
because it wasn't airing in America at that time. But I just knew that I'd loved Doctor Who in the past, but when it came back, it was just basically inspiration just hit me, and I was like, oh my God, I'm alive again, practically, because the new series was so amazing, and the finale of season 2 just, burned a hole in my heart, because it was just so, I locked myself in my room and cried, but
You might not want to admit that on a public podcast, John.
Oh, I have no shame.
Too late.
I have no shame. I cried during Lord of the Rings.
Well, yeah, me too.
But to answer your question more thoroughly, I just knew, me being American, I was like going, the odds of me ever actually, working on Doctor Who, and even at the most case playing Doctor Who might be a far gone conclusion. So I figured the best thing to do, try my hand at doing my own thing. And I met Harry, the director, Harrison Biswa, through a play we were doing, which didn't get up and off the ground, but he was working on his own independent production of Batman Beyond,
right?
Which actually you can find. I believe you can find it on Daily Motion. I think it's Batman Beyond Ultimate Vengeance, and you can find it there. And he just basically gave me some early pointers, and I saw what he did with Batman Beyond, and I was actually kind of surprised because I'm not sure if you've ever seen Batman Beyond, but that was kind of like Akira, that show.
Oh, okay, yeah. I've seen a little bit of it. I wasn't a huge fan.
Yeah, well, I mean, but the fact that he resolved to jump out there and just do low budget Batman Beyond and actually did a pretty decent job. I was like thinking, well, man, if he could do this with Batman Beyond, what can he do with Doctor Who? Because one of the things Doctor Who was always famous for was the ultra low budget.
Right.
So when I was writing the script, I was like thinking, here's a good idea, basically, new Who style storytelling on an old Who budget.
Right.
Yeah, and he gave me a fantastic advice, which I believe he picked up from John Ford, not just recorded a bit of advice that he just gave to filmmakers, period, where he basically said, write around what you've got.
Right.
And what I had was a creepy shed in the backyard of my house and a nice house.
Yeah.
And access to a college, or so I thought. But,
right.
So I just basically wrote around all that, and that's where the genesis of the story came. Well, the broad strokes of the story came around.
Right.
Yeah.
So were you consciously trying to emulate this sort of Russell T. Davies style, or was it?
Well, I admit I was kind of inspired by the way Russell T. Davies wrote it, because prior to the new series coming out, I had made very weak attempts to try and write Doctor Who stories, and they came out very stagnant and a little too fan-wanky, because I was basically trying to stick to like an established formula, which I came to the realization just wasn't working. But when Russell T. Davies, jumped out, and when I watched Rose, it just blew my mind. That I think the thing that hit me was the doctor in the background while Rose was making tea, looking through a teen mag, going, "Oh, he's gay and she's an alien."
Right.
I was like, "Whoa, that's bold," and I've never seen. And then add on to that, I watched End of the World, and I'm watching the Doctor jam out to Soft Cell Tainted Love.
Right.
And that, to me, spoke to me, because I was like, you know what, he's right. The Doctor wouldn't, if he's a man of truly worldly, like a guy who embraces everything, he would kind of not just embrace, posh culture. He would also embrace pop culture. He would have fun. So
right.
That kind of spoke to me. As far as the dialogue goes, the funny thing was, we were kind of noticing it was a bit more Joss Whedon than Russell T. Davies.
Right.
As far as the dialogue, because one of the things I noticed that and actually, the funny thing, I think even Russell T. Davies even went on record saying Joss Whedon was one of his muses too.
Yeah, definitely.
And I do know some influences with that, and frankly, that's fine, because that man does spectacular work.
Yeah.
As a writer in my book.
Yeah. Big fan. Yeah.
Yeah. Matter of fact, Harry jumped on board primarily for the big action sequence. The big thing with all the crazy students getting all
right.
Aggressive and all that. He jumped at that because he wanted to do a Reaver sequence, kind of like Serenity.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, because he himself is a big Joss Whedon fan.
That's funny.
Yeah.
Well, so how long did it take you to write the script?
The funny thing, that's the weird thing about script writing. Sometimes if it's like a story you have in passing, it takes time, but this is one of those times where everything just fell in place right, and this story only took me, with outlining and with final, and with just the first draft, it took me only, I think, about maybe 3 weeks, maybe a month.
Oh, wow. That is pretty fast.
This one just poured out of me real fast. There was just everything that just fell into place. Admittedly, there was like certain factors in there that just spoke to me. Of course, the character of Jessica was like a big thing. Additionally, and this is kind of going back to Russell T. Davies, funny thing he said in an interview, because at this point they were talking about the third season, and everyone was like going, will they ever bring back the Master? And little did I realize he was lying.
Right.
Russell T. Davies goes, oh no, I'm never bringing back the Master. He's a rubbish villain. There's nothing we can do to make him better. Little did I realize he was lying through his teeth.
Right. Little did any of us realize.
And so I was like, oh yeah, no way. No. We can do something with the Master. We can make him freaky again.
Yeah.
We can make him a potent villain again, just like he was when Delgado first jumped out of the horse box.
Yeah.
So I think that was kind of a challenge, and resolved to make a a version of the Master that was basically sinister, that was basically more than anything terrifying, just basically seeing a completely warped, demented villain who would basically... Because I guess for me, a great villain is one who delights in causing pain and just enjoys it.
Yeah.
Because to me, I just think that's sick, demented. Any person who does that is just genuinely evil.
Yeah.
And to me, and that's the one thing I don't think I've ever seen the Master do, is take delight in causing pain. So I was like, oh, that should be the next step. Let's have a version of the Master that does that.
Yeah. If I'm honest, I have to say that when it first became obvious that the Master was the villain in your film, I was kind of like, oh, okay, we've seen like a million fan films with the Master, and it's kind of a cliche at this point. But you guys, I thought, handled it really well, and you definitely went a lot darker than pretty much anybody I've ever seen do with the character, and that kind of energized it a lot. So
But we also like to think Jeff helped. We just think Jeff just did an amazing job as the Master.
Yeah.
I mean, on script, on paper it's one thing, but when you got an actor who's willing to convey it with as much conviction as Jeff did,
yeah,
then you've knocked it out of the park.
I was just going to say, definitely, one of the things that's impressive about your film is just the sort of willingness to go to darker places than most fan films, certainly, and, darker than the actual series, and for the most part. You don't see a lot of parental abuse in fan films.
That all came about just because, because I've seen some fan productions where, you have actors basically playing existing doctors and having them playing existing companions. I saw one where it intercut Doctor Who with Star Trek, and the guy playing the Doctor was doing Sylvester McCoy, and his companion was doing Ace, and I'm like going, that's all well and good, because, I love 7 and 8, but, it's more fun, it's more challenging for an actor to try their hand in coming up with something new, and that's kind of how I approached the Doctor, and when I was writing Jessica, that's what I want, period. I want to try a brand new companion, come up with something of my own that's not like the rest of them.
Right.
Because one of the things I love that they've paid particular attention to in the run of the entire show, in the entire mythos, is that no companion resembles the other, which is great.
Right.
It's just fantastic in my book, so I was thinking the same thing. So.
And you said that in your notes that you posted on Gallifrey Base, you said that Jessica actually went through a fair amount of evolution. Yeah,
because I was thinking, let's go complete opposite, because at the time we had Rose last time, so I was okay, let's go complete opposite. Let's have a freaking goth girl companion, and because that would be way different. Because I think the big thing I was shooting for was, let's have a companion who has no interest whatsoever in traveling through time and space, and let's see how the Doctor copes with that. Right. And how does he react to it? Because everyone he's ever met is all about all right, let's go see it, and so let's have someone who's invariably cynical in the beginning, and the Doctor basically opens their eyes, inspires them.
Right.
Yeah, and I'm thinking, well, what's the visual representation of that? Well, a goth.
Right.
Obviously. And then as it was going on, I think when I was writing the script, I was playing the video game Bully at the time, and I just saw the character Zoe that becomes the main character. I'm not sure if you ever played the game, but she's basically this trailer trash girl who's really cynical, very disaffected, but really kind of hardcore, tough girl who basically kick your butt. And I was like, that's an interesting way to go. And the look of the character was initially where I was going. And then finally, when we settled on Kara, and I just was intrigued to see what Kara would bring to the table as far as the look of the character. And then she came up with this look, and when we did the photo session, that ended up being exactly what I was looking for. It wasn't stereotypical, it wasn't overbearing, it was subtle, but yet still conveyed exactly what I wanted. Basically, a cynical, very defensive character, but yet not stereotypical. It just spoke to me the way Kara portrayed it, or at least initially approached it when we did that first photo session.
So are you saying you actually made some changes to the script after she'd already started working on it?
Well, the funny thing is, as far as the dialogue of the character goes, no, actually I didn't, because actually, for the most part, the characterization pretty much remained intact. I never really wrote in the script that the character was meant to be goth. I just recommended to the cast that, let's have her try to be goth, and we just basically, when we cast Kara, if you ever meet Kara is definitely not goth.
Okay, right.
She is definitely not goth, but I knew that she was a fantastic actress, so because I had worked with her, so I was like, okay, so let's see what you bring to the table. Because I'm always open-minded, because one thing I've learned, especially, because I've always heard talks about script writers, when they write a character initially and when they finally get to production, it always ends up being something completely different than what they initially thought of in the beginning. I mean, let's not forget, Ripley was originally a man.
Well, yeah, sure.
Exactly. So I just took it on faith. Okay, let's just see what Kara brings to the table, and it turned out to be exactly the right thing I was looking for.
Great. All right, so you've got your script pretty much done. How did you approach putting a crew together, or basically getting ready to shoot it?
Well, this was definitely my first any attempt to actually do a production. So my first instinct was to talk to Harry and his partner in crime, Brian Zazara, to help me with this project.
Brian was the cinematographer, right?
Yeah, Brian was the director of photography, and he was also co-producer.
Okay.
Yeah, all three of us produced it because they, of course, had Batman Beyond. So this was telling me, okay, let's go with two guys who know how to get a production up and off the ground, and who has the tenacity to keep going. Because low budget filmmaking is a completely different challenge compared to high budget filmmaking. Harry's hardcore tenacity was one of the things that kept us going in order to make sure the thing gets in the can.
Right.
Yeah, that was the big thing. And actually, it was also through Harry and Brian that I met Jeff Breslau to begin with, because he was friends with them, and they were in close contact. And I met Jeff at a convention. I was intrigued, but he was a SAG actor, so I was intimidated, because I was like, wow, that's a whole other can of worms there.
Right.
I wasn't expecting to even touch.
You had originally cast somebody else as the Master, had you not?
There were many people. Well, actually, I had written the part for a friend of mine who I had worked with on a children's theater tour. And, I initially wrote it for him because I knew, once again, fantastic actor and a good friend to boot, and also a Doctor Who fan.
Yeah, right.
Because I figured if you're going to have someone who's playing pretty much one of the most important villains in the show's history, it should be someone who knows the show.
Right.
That was my first instinct. So it was for this guy, but he had a scheduling conflict with another film he was making, so he couldn't do it. So ran the gamut amongst everyone I knew in my calendar, trying to find someone, but no one was available, or just there were other people who just weren't interested in the project. So
right.
I was kind of up the creek. So, but Jeffrey Breslau kept coming up everyone kept talking about it. Harry kept saying, let's take a chance. Let's we'll help you with the paperwork and all that. Let's just go ahead and go for Jeffrey Breslau. And I was like, okay, let's give it a shot. I send him a copy of the script via through the email, and I wasn't expecting to hear back from him till like a week later. I mean, most people I hand my script, I don't hear from them until like way later.
Right.
I get an email from him via MySpace in like about an hour and a half later, praising the script, saying, oh man, it's a wonderful script, and I'm very happy to be considered for the role of Robert, a.k.a. the Master. And the thing that allured him to it was to be asked to play the Master, because he's a fantastic character. So, because many actors may not want to play Moriarty or the equivalent hereof.
Right.
And Jeff actually has experience playing the Joker, so he knows how to play a villain.
Oh, wow. That's cool.
Yeah, he played the Joker at Six Flags.
Oh, okay. That's funny.
Yeah, it is.
Well, I think, part of what's great about it, it's a great performance just to begin with, but just the fact that, he's a little older and just sort of obviously a more seasoned person. I mean, a lot of times in fan films, it seems like, everybody's 12 years old, and, I know you were like in your late 20s when you shot it, but even so, you look very youthful, and, obviously Kara's very young. So having the villain be sort of an old guy, an older gentleman, I'm sure, what is Jeff, probably in his 40s?
I think that's about right.
Yeah.
I mean, he claims to be older, but I'm like, no.
It's just always nice to see older performers in fan films. It gives it a more professional look to it. But. Yeah.
Well, the funny thing is, I was saying that when Harry and Brian, even they, with Batman Beyond results, actually cast of-age actors, the right actors for the right age.
Right.
Because I know exactly what you're talking about. I've seen, Doctor Who films where they have professor characters who basically look like they, had a $100 gift certificate at a piercing lounge.
Right.
And I'm like, are you serious?
Yeah.
Really? We're going to go with this.
Right.
Okay. Yeah, okay. So what is he? He's the brother of that girl from NCIS. What?
Right.
Come on. Let's work with me, people. But Jeff was just the right guy at the right time, and he read the script, and me and him had the same sensibility of what we were shooting for the master. So it was a joy to work with that man, and I mean, naturally intimidating because he's a seasoned professional. I mean, if you look on IMDb, that guy's got some cred under his belt.
Right.
I mean, he worked on Superboy. He worked on Swamp Thing. He was recently in the HBO TV movie Recounts.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, he was in that recently. Wow. So he's got some cred under his belt. So it was quite amazing that the seasoned professional was willing to, play in the sandbox with the kiddies.
Yeah. So okay, so you got a pretty good cast put together, and get ready to start shooting. Talk a little bit about your awesome full-size TARDIS and your control room. How did you put those together?
Well, the police box was constructed by myself and my father. My father is a mechanical wizard. I mean, he's the kind of guy who rides a roller coaster strictly so he can reverse engineer it with his eyes.
Right.
He's that kind of guy. So he had all the toys in our garage and the shed, and I just, we're building a TARDIS for it, because I told him I want a police box. I've seen too many productions where they just use a cardboard box and paint on it. So I'm like, no, we want the real deal. And we had the resources, so me and my dad got a whole bunch of wood together from Home Depot and started building it based on specifications from a cover of SFX magazine that had a really good picture of the TARDIS on it. So we built off that, and we intended the thing to go on location. So we designed it to be collapsible.
Right.
So basically you can take out panels on all sides, and there's a frame, and the bottom bit is a frame that you can, that has slots that you can slide the panels onto to make sure it all stays flush.
Right.
And he designed the light on top with the dimmer pack, so we could do the, to have the light on top flash.
Right.
Yeah. So as for the console, that was made largely by a lot of spare parts that we happen to have in the garage. We had like a bunch of sheets of plywood, and my dad, when it comes to old school technology, he was a hoarder. So in our garage, he had like lots of old dials and stuff, which looks great. Because one of the things I loved particularly about Paul McGann's TARDIS, was the contemporary nature of it, like the fact that it looked like an old, like very Jules Verne, very H.G. Wells kind of thing. So I felt it, and especially that's one thing I love about Matt Smith's TARDIS, that it looks old school with a lot of the bits and bobs they got on it.
Yeah.
I love that. So his garage, my dad's garage, it had like all this great like old school electronics that we were able to break apart and put all over the console.
Right. And what was the set was at the college? Is that right? You had the actual set for the interior?
Yeah, it was actually a high school.
Okay.
The G-Star School of the Arts, located out of West Palm Beach. They were a fantastic group. We came at the project, and they just showed us around to the venue. They showed us around their Studio B, where they had all the sets, that they just had lying around.
Right.
And we walked around. And that's where we saw that library set, which they apparently had for like a murder mystery series that they do like every year.
Okay.
And it was the perfect set. It even had this green screen frame above the fireplace. And I'm like, well, boom, there's our TARDIS scanner right there.
Wow. Well, what were they using the green screen for?
I have no idea. I'm betting like maybe like some kind of haunted mansion kind of thing where, like the image in the painting probably moved.
Oh, right.
That's an educated guess, but that's the only thing I can think of. But they also had a secret passage behind one of the bookcases, which I was telling Harry, oh, no, that's got to be the main door.
Right.
Right there. So, and since, my sincere love for the TV movie, I loved, even people who don't like the TV movie will wholeheartedly admit saying that TARDIS looked amazing.
Yeah.
And I just said, that's the one I want to emulate because, let's face it, it'll look the most cozy. That actually looks like one you could live in.
Right.
And I'm thinking, and since I was gunning for the fact that my doctor was basically going to be the 13th doctor, he was probably, I was like thinking logically, he probably wanted a nice comfy TARDIS.
Right.
Nice comfy TARDIS to live in. So that was my rationale, and it just fell into place perfectly.
Yeah, I've noticed that. I mean, you've said that in like a lot of the publicity materials and things, but it doesn't ever actually come up in the script. Is that something you're thinking you'll develop down the line in future episodes, or was that just background you wanted in there for your own sort of knowledge of how to play it?
There was multiple reasons for that. The reason why I chose 13th Doctor, A, to distance myself as much as possible from what's going on in the new series,
right.
So I can kind of create my own mythos on my own. But B, because I just came to a realization, and it's going to be a while before we get to it with the current series running, I just realized there's a wealth of material there that hasn't been tapped yet. And I'm like thinking, that's fodder to write for. I mean, it's one thing to be the last of the Time Lords, but still have a couple of regenerations left. But what happens when you are literally the last of the last?
Right.
So I was like thinking in my head, I mean, that's got to be, there's like a whole wealth of material right there that's going to be great to tap for the series of stories which I have lined up.
Right.
So, I mean, there's like a whole loads of reasons for why I chose to be the 13th.
Okay. I know you had some issues with lost footage, but as far as the first time you shot it, how long did you guys shoot for the first time?
The initial shooting period took, I think, a grand total. I think we started shooting nearing the end of April, and I think we finished shooting, I want to say either the end of June or the beginning of July. I remember it was definitely in the summer when we were in the throes of filming.
Right.
And, so I would say probably about a good maybe 10 weeks, 13 weeks, because, the other problem with low-budget filmmaking is that since no one's really getting paid, it's a matter of, what you basically have to acclimatize to their schedule.
Right.
Acclimatize is the right word, but you basically have to adjust to their schedule.
Sure.
Yeah, so you shoot when you can.
Right. Still, that's actually, for a fan film, that's a pretty short schedule for an hour-long film. You guys must have crammed in a lot of long days.
Yeah, we did. Well, that's another credit to G-Star. There were times, they let us come in on the weekends, on the Saturdays. We came in, I think, maybe about 8 or 9 in the morning, and a lot of times we didn't get out until midnight or 1 a.m.
Wow.
And they let us stay there the entire time, and the guys who ran it were just absolutely spectacular. So there were a lot. So we got, and in that time, we got a lot of scenes out of the way. I mean, there was one day where we resolved to basically get all of the Doctor's interior TARDIS scenes out of the way.
Right.
Starting from Jessica's first arrival in it, all the way to the big dogfight sequence. Yeah, and even for extra measure, filmed a couple little extra insert stuff just in case we needed it.
Right. Yeah, I was going to ask how long did they allow that set to stand?
Well, that set, the library set belonged to them.
Oh, right.
The only bit that belonged to us was the console itself.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, gotcha. Okay, so you had it shot, and then you said that there was some footage lost. So what happened? How and why, and what was the deal with that?
Well, details are kind of vague now, but I remember it happened on Harry's side, but I just remember that all I remember was that the footage was lost about a couple weeks later, and I remember being very naturally I was very nonplussed about this, but
yeah.
The main reason, and here's the funniest part, the main reason why I was a little bit unhappy about it, because we lost pretty much most of all the footage with the big chase sequence and with Jeff, which meaning we had to reshoot. But even funnier was at the end of the shoot, I was dying from the heat because here I am with long hair in Florida. I was like, I gotta get this cut. So after we wrapped, I cut my hair.
Right.
And I was like, oh, no, you turned me into a continuity error. I'm like, you turned me into a living, breathing continuity error. But, so that was my main gripe of that. I was like, well, great, we got to wait till I grow my hair out again so we can reshoot again. Like, no, we have to strike all the iron time. It's like, well, how do you intend to adjust for this? And then, right on that same day, my production assistant / my future wife, Lynn, said, I was on the phone, and she was like, well, honey, let me ask you something. Is there any indication in the script that your doctor has just regenerated? I'm like, no, I haven't written anything in. Well, is there a room that you could put it in? Well, yeah. Well, then there you go. His post-regeneration side effect is that his hair keeps changing length.
More believable than having your hand grow back.
You know what? Doctor is the most, compared to other mythos, Doctor is the most flexible because it's allowed to be a little bit absurd.
Right.
I'm willing to accept it. I'm sorry. I have no problem when the show gets a little silly because it embraces it.
Yeah. Well, were the physical tapes lost, or was it the digital files, or it appalls me that much footage just goes away, as I'm sure it appalled you.
Oh, well, you're telling me. Well, that was, because we only shot on handheld mini digital, all we had was tapes.
Right.
And we didn't have the funding and we didn't have the tech yet to back it up on a hard drive yet.
Okay.
So we were still kind of literally we had just wrapped, and we still hadn't time to back it all up, but then some footage got lost for one reason. I wasn't there when it happened. Harry had the footage at that time, and I was more, I didn't care about the circumstances. I was like, I don't care. It just happened. It's happened.
Right.
I'm not happy. But Harry, bless him, resolved to make it right, and we got a new camera. Well, we got a better camera, actually, and we got some more, and we reshot again, and the funny thing was, a lot of us were actually, Jeff, Daryl Baldwin, our stunt coordinator, and a lot of the people who were in that sequence, they were all happy to come back because they were like thinking, well, you know what, there's an opportunity to do it better.
Yeah.
And as a result, yes, it was. I mean, the big chase sequence was way, way better, in my opinion. A lot of Jeff's performance was beautifully, was way better realized. The only kink with the reshoots was that we were not able to reshoot Jeff's sequence, TARDIS dogfight sequence, his side of it, in the original place. Well, you know the scene where me and Jessica first walk into the Master's TARDIS?
Yeah.
I'm not sure if you noticed this, but that set, compared to the set where Jeff's doing the dogfight, is not the same one.
Oh, I never noticed.
Yeah, I'll explain later how amazing that effect was achieved. But so we had to, but because they were doing renovations in the Black Box at G-Star, where we shot it, and so Jeff had to film it in a different part of Studio B, where it was like sweltering hot, and poor guy had to basically cope with the fact it was really hot in there, and he had to, but
because you basically had to reshoot all of Jeff's stuff, right?
Pretty much.
Yeah. Well, so, I mean, percentage-wise, how much was gone? Like, more than half?
I'd say about 40%.
40%? Okay.
Yeah, about 40% of it.
Okay. And so then you started your reshoots pretty immediately once you realized it was gone?
Once we got more tapes, and more, and we got the new camera, because unfortunately, and basically once we were all set and going, the reshoots actually took, on the whole, 5 days. We had 3 days with Jeff. Jeff came back for 3 days to do the reshoot, to do the reshoots. He stayed out for 3 days. The only another hitch that came with it was Kara, unfortunately, came down with a really serious dental affliction, and we were unable to, and she wasn't able to attend on the third day when we were doing that parking lot sequence, that big confrontation scene?
Right.
Between the three of us?
Yeah.
She wasn't able to attend with me and Jeff that one day. So we had to try and do the Robert Rodriguez technique and try and shoot her at the same location later on. But there were cars in the parking lot, and there was basically continuity problems all over the place.
Right.
So when the time came, when Peter Gould joined the production, that's why, if you see that scene, that's why it's a better visual quality, because we reshot that one about 2 years later. Just because we had to.
Right.
Okay.
Right. So the reshoots happened really quickly after the original shoot. And then so then at that point you were going into post-production, and you had some issues there, I believe.
Now that started, we had a editor who from G-Star, he was recommended by the guy who worked with G-Star, and he put together that first really raw 11 minutes, which I believe you saw on Daily Motion.
Oh, right. Yeah, way back when.
Yeah, that was way back when, and for a time he was going to be our editor, but unfortunately what happened was I was around that time that came out, I was already in the throes of getting ready to move up to Orlando because we shot down in South Florida, but I was getting ready to move up to Orlando, which means the post-production was going to be in the hands of Harry and this one editor, Larry DeCarmine. And for one reason or another, I mean, he had other projects, other commitments, band gigs and all that, and Harry couldn't keep tabs on him all the time because, he had stuff he had to do.
Sure.
So, and I was getting kind of antsy because, for the longest time, I had to basically, I was at the mercy of this guy who was caught up in doing his own thing. So finally, time came, I was like saying, you know what, this is my baby, I had to take control. So, I was able to get the footage back, and that's where Peter Gould comes in on this whole thing.
Because this guy had the footage for like a year, is that right?
Yeah, because because we were willing to give him the benefit of the doubt because for what he did, because he put together that 11-minute sneak peek in a matter of 2 weeks.
Wow. Yeah.
And this is and he was a teacher at the school, so that says a lot that he was able to put all that together that fast.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it was raw, but I will say, it was pretty amazing that he put that together so fast. So I was willing to give him the benefit of the doubt that you get this guy going, he could probably really churn out something good. And so I was willing to give him that, but also it was a matter of communication. Sure. For a time, he actually was really difficult to get a hold of. So
right.
That was all that going. And unfortunately, like I said, I was living up in Orlando, so I wasn't able to. I was pretty much, a lot of it was out of my hands at that point. So.
Yeah, because I remember my reaction at the time when you originally came around and started promoting the film, and you posted that first 11 minutes, or that, I know it wasn't strictly the first 11 minutes, but it was an 11-minute chunk. And I remember thinking, this looks really cool, I can't wait to see the whole production, and then you just kind of went dark for a long time.
I dropped off the face. See, my whole thing is I don't like, constantly up there and going, oh, no, it's coming. Yeah. And then I go with, oh, no, it's still coming. I'm just like, you know what, I'll just report to you guys when I actually have something concrete to tell you guys.
Yeah, yeah.
And then, unfortunately, that concrete came in the form of Peter Gould. So,
So where did you find Peter, and how'd you hook up with him?
Ironically, I met Peter Gould at the same con that I met Jeffrey Breslauer at. And the funny thing is, I went there, just for pre-promotion with the film, and here I am, dressed up as my doctor, and he was an old school fan. He still hadn't seen the new series yet, but he saw me, and he's like going, I've been on a loop for a while, but I'm assuming you're Doctor Who? And of course, here I am. I'm totally method, so of course I'm in my full British accent. Totally, pimping the accent. And yes, definitely. Yes, definitely, Doctor. It's a new project. So Stock's Triangle, and we got to talking, and it turned out he was a colossal fan of the classic series. He was actually watching it when it was initially airing.
Oh wow.
He will tell you he is an avid fan of Peter Davison. Peter Davison is his doctor. Right. Big time. So I met him there, and I reconnected with him at the next convention the year after. So we just became, good friends after that. And then I got the footage back, and we got to work. And he'll deny it upright and center. He'll keep saying this is all me, But I'm personally going to say he's like one of the main reasons this thing turned out as well as it did. Because in the hands of any other, in a lot of other editors, especially when it comes to low budget filmmaking, it's going to look, it's going to look kind of, piecemeal. It's going to look a little choppy. But he made, and that's why I put in the special thanks. Thank you for making handheld mini digital look way better than it actually does. Right, yeah. Which is what he did, and he went beyond the call in a lot of cases. He's responsible for a lot of the post-production visual effects, the light coming out of the box, the flames in the Master's TARDIS, the spark effects. Oh, right, yeah. The green screen effects. That was all him.
Yeah,
That was all him.
and plus it's like I said, it's a really nice editing job. It's nicely pacey, and it just it doesn't drag like a lot of I don't want to say most fan films, but like a lot of fan films.
From here on in, me and him are going to be collaborating on a lot of our projects to come. So yeah, and no, it's just a blast to work with and all that fun. But when we did that reshoot in the parking lot, he kind of took over. I mean, Harry supervised. Harry came back to supervise the project, but this was mainly just to test the water to see how me and Pete were going to work together in a production aspect.
Right.
And Pete just, he rocked it. He took it to 11, and of course he is an experience. He has like his own set of toys, basically, and as a result, that's why the parking lot sequence looks so much more polished.
Right.
Because a lot of this was his doing, and this was what we wanted. We wanted to see how we were going to work together.
Right.
Yeah.
Now I know it screened at Gallifrey 1 in early 2010. Was that?
Yeah, the early rough cut, like the first cut we actually had showed at Gallifrey 1. Yeah.
But that was Peter's cut, though, right?
Yeah, that was Peter's first cut.
Okay, and I was gonna ask how different was that played there from what eventually got released as the finished cut?
There were some audio glitches, like, the most notorious audio glitch was after the first TARDIS scene with me and Jessica, he, in that first cut, forgot to cancel out the audio clip of the TARDIS humming sound.
Okay.
That humming sound that accompanies the TARDIS whenever they're inside.
Sure.
That sound ends up getting played out all the way. That's why you keep hearing it all the way into my scene with Jeff.
Oh, okay.
And it just keeps going until the audio file ends.
Right. Okay.
So ooh, that's a big one. But also a lot of music cues were not there. The parking lot scene had little to no music.
Yeah.
And also the dogfight sequence didn't have as many visual effects.
Okay.
As well, like a lot of flames and a lot of the sparks and stuff weren't there.
Right.
And a lot of sound effects weren't there. So he in post-production he put a lot of effects in himself.
Okay.
Afterwards. So that was the early cut that got shown at Gallifrey. This year, coming, that's the cut. The final cut's going to be screened at Gallifrey this year.
Oh, okay, great. How was the reaction on that from the audience?
It's kind of fun to start that first screening. When it starts, there were a lot of people leaving because they wanted to see one film, which obviously which I'm cool with. I'm all right, but some people stayed.
Yeah. And
so it was half full. And I'm just watching the film, and my friends are right next to me, so I'm more gauging their reaction. And then I look back, all of a sudden it's a full house.
Oh, really?
All of a sudden it's a full house, and I sat in through most of the fan films that day because a lot of them were pretty good. I was really enjoying a lot of them.
Yeah.
And then I stand up, and all of a sudden I get applause.
Cool.
And I was like, well, what? Huh? And then as I walked out, all of a sudden I had a bunch of people wanted to take pictures because I was in my 13th Doctor outfit.
Oh, right.
For it, and I walked out. All of a sudden, everyone wanted a picture with a picture of my doctor. So I was like, okay, I think there's something right here.
That's very cool.
Yeah, and I actually got to talking with some of the people who sat in on it, and of course, the unanimous things they love Jeff as the master.
Yeah.
They were shocked, actually, with a lot of the routes we took the story, particularly with the doctor euthanizing Gwen.
Right.
Yeah, with Jessica's mother. I mean, I was thinking, well, this is not the first time he's euthanized somebody.
I was going to say, that scene didn't bother me at all. That seemed very much in keeping with, it's not like there's any. I mean, you made it very clear that there's no chance for this lady to recover. So the doctor giving her sort of a merciful death, that seemed totally in character to me.
Yeah. Oh, at the food, it was at Jessica's behest.
Right. Exactly.
Jessica asked him to do it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it was. So it's not like he did it of his own free will. She asked him to do it.
Yeah. Which is
synonymous with a coma patient and their family saying pull the plug.
Yeah.
So and not only that, in season 2, David Tennant's doctor euthanized a Cyberman.
Oh, right.
In Age of Steel, he euthanized that one Cyberman who regained consciousness of being human.
Right.
Yeah. So I was like, so when I wrote it, I was like, that's not so unusual. I've seen it happen, but everyone else was kind of amazed about the way we do it in this one.
Yeah.
So, but he was amazed that we took that kind of bold step, and I think they also mentioned how that we took the route of a little bit of a domestic drama, the fact that the master was turning into was an abusive stepfather.
Right.
Kind of route. So that was the big thing. And the next day, I ran to a mother and her daughter who sat in. They just impulsively just came in and sat in on it. And the thing that they were taken aback about, they said, we've seen many fan films, but we've never seen one that was written the way this one was.
Yeah.
And this is the first time anything I've written has ever been fully produced. I mean, I've written plays before, but, didn't know how to get those produced. This is the first time anything I produced was ever actually getting play.
Right.
So I had no idea whether I had any kind of stuff as a writer, so it meant a lot to me that someone said that the writing was really good. So I was like, okay. Because I'll say, anyone who knows me knows I have a hard time with compliments because I don't get them that often. I'm like, just, okay, that's a good thing. I guess I know what I'm doing after all.
Well, that's pretty funny. Well, so let's talk just real briefly about the music. Is there any original music, or is it all sourced stuff?
That's another caveat with low-budget filmmaking is that sometimes you got to make compromises as far as resources, and at the time we didn't have a composer.
Yeah. So
we basically had to. And there's another benefit where Pete came in. Yes, we did use a lot of Murray Gold stuff for the just wherever appropriate. We tried to resolve not to use iconic music. Basically, like we didn't want to use Rose's theme because it's Rose's theme.
Right.
So we basically tried our best to use nondescript music that just seemed to fit.
Right.
Like in the beginning when Gwen, sits up in her trance. That's from Boomtown.
Okay.
In the first season, and I liked it because it was a very spooky sounding, very nondescript bit of music. And then, and of course, Pete loved a lot of music cues from the fifth season, especially that really great suspenseful build-up music that was all throughout the fifth season. That.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, we had to. Yeah, he was like hell bent to use that one because it was such a great music cue. And he also used Prisoner Zero's theme to substitute for the Master's theme.
Okay.
For certain of the more subtle, creepy scenes, he wanted to use that one.
Yeah.
But the most amazing music choice he used wasn't even from Doctor Who's library at all, and that is Jessica's theme, the one that plays when the Doctor and Jessica are on the bench, talking.
Okay, right, yeah.
That scene, that music is actually from 24.
Oh, really?
And from all places, it's from the scene in the end of season 1. Incidentally, spoiler alert, where Jack Bauer kills the big baddie. Not much of a spoiler because he always does. But where he kills the big baddie at the end of season 1.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah, and it's a very suspenseful, dramatically intense scene, and yet this music, this sweet, beautiful music, plays in that background. So I'm like, so literally, it just shows when you take music out of context, it can be done. It becomes quite versatile, and it just sang to us with Jessica because we knew it was important that Jessica had a theme. Because one of the things I love what Murray Gold has done with the new series is that every companion has their own quintessential theme music.
Right.
And it works. And it sounds so good.
Yeah, and it works pretty well. I mean, it's always preferable if you can get somebody to do an original score for you, but as far as sourcing the music that already exists, I thought you guys did a real good job of fitting it together, and like you said, not using a lot of the overused stuff.
Only where it's appropriate. I mean, we used the Master's da-da-da-da-da thing, but we saved it just for during that climactic phone call, because it's a good build-up, suspenseful music, so... Yeah. We just tried to use it where it was appropriate. And it's the Master's music, so it's not like it's out of character.
Yeah. Well, were there any just funny stories from any aspect of the production that I haven't specifically asked about that you want to kick in?
I'm thinking most of those questions will be answered with the blooper reel. But,
okay.
I'll go ahead because I don't know what we're going to do with the blooper reel. I don't know if we're going to put it online. I think we should, frankly.
You definitely should.
Yeah. So, during the most notorious, one of the great things about Kara was so good she was like the queen of organic bloopers. I mean, she was the best with them. one of the funniest ones was during that really sentimental scene after the dogfight where she's basically getting me back up on my feet. During that line where she goes, you were never his pawn. I don't know what happened prior to filming that scene, but apparently something was entering her head. Well, when she does the line, she's very bold and very dramatic, going, "No, you were never his porn."
Well, that puts a whole different slant on the scene.
Yeah, a totally different play on the scene. I couldn't continue after that. My brain was, because of course when you write the script, you have the dialogue pretty much embedded in your brain. So you're just like, or the Japanese say, "Nani?" Yeah. What?
That'll definitely stop you in your tracks.
Yeah, it stopped me dead in my tracks. So that was probably, and that hands down is one of the best bloopers we'll have on the gag reel.
So you had it all done, and how did you make the decision to break it up into chunks for YouTube? And basically, you turned it into a web series, even though it was filmed as more as a movie, right?
Yeah. Well, that just came out primarily just because. Well, that YouTube, let's face it, is the most popular site to go to look at the stuff. That was the first thing. We wanted to, expand our viewership as much as possible, and we're better than YouTube. But and I know that there's like special added, like I don't know what you have to do, but I know that there's a special thing you have to do to get extended videos on there. Because I've seen hour-long videos on YouTube before.
Yeah, I think you have to pay a premium. I think
that's what it was. Is we had to pay, and we were like going, you know what? Yeah. And then we just had a really wacky idea. You know what? Let's really play up the old school and just do it serialized. Bring back the old school style. Because as much as we love the new series, I do kind of miss the serialized format with the cliffhanger stuff. So we're like, okay, let's go ahead and do it like that. And so Pete chopped it up into to the 10 parts. I was thinking it was only going to be like 8 parts. But I guess it was a tech reason, but he had to, for time reasons, had to expand out to 10 parts.
Okay.
So that's why we did it. But it played, and it did kind of help build up our audience. So
yeah.
It helped.
Yeah. Well, that's good. That's what you want.
Yeah. But I do agree with you because I remember I spoke with you, and you commented that the film takes a completely different shape in that pace-wise, format.
Yeah.
And then when you saw it, intact, it was a completely different film.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it would be different if it were designed to be 10-minute chunks. There were some of the endings that seemed kind of like, okay, that was a weird place to end, but not at the time, not knowing what was coming next. Of course, I didn't know if it was a weird place or if it was a totally natural place. So yeah, to me, it definitely played better all in one sitting. But I completely understand what you're talking about the way you did it, why you did it that way. And like I said, this way you got. The way you did it, you could make a big deal out of it 10 different times instead of just once.
Exactly, and to boot, and as a result, we ended up generating a really good fan base for it, and we had a lot of repeat people coming back, just saying, "Oh, I love it was great, can't wait for the next one." Yeah. And sometimes we threw them a bone and released it a day early, just because we were loving that they were enjoying it. So it was like, why make them wait?
Yeah, exactly.
So, inevitably, we released it on Daily Motion and on Bayo, just so everyone could, so people could see it intact and not have to go through not have to, click and wait for it to stream. So
right.
Yeah, because you're right. It is a different film when it's intact.
Yeah. Yeah. So what's going to be the DVD release? What are you guys doing with that?
Well, initially, right now, the one thing we promised, and this is a good tip for anyone who wants to a big ensemble scene, especially if they're most people are actors. Promise them a copy of the DVD.
Yeah.
Because they'll want it for their demos. Right. And that's the first thing we're going to do. Basically, after we get the DVDs made, then we're going to distribute it out to everyone who's involved in the project, so they have something to show off to other people, like their agents and whatnot.
Sure.
But then after that, I'm relatively new with the whole, the red tape as far as what I'm allowed to do and what I don't do as far as distributing DVDs. At this point, right. Another thing I do for shameless self-promotion is take a whole bunch with me to various conventions and hand them out to some of the guests, like saying, "Hey,
Sure.
Hey, this is me." So, which, let's face it, that's why a lot of fan filmmakers make the films to begin with.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, I don't think anybody that gets into the fan film business in order to make a lot of money is an idiot. You know.
Yeah, no, pure and simple, they do it to show off show off their clout and or not their clout, but their ability to to be able to integrate their own ideas into the mythos. And I'm like, yeah, and I mean, that's what they all do. I mean, that's why Harry made his Batman Beyond film, because he wanted to show that it is possible to make a Batman Beyond movie, and this is how you do it.
Yeah.
And I just said, for me, I just wanted to show off how I could do as a writer, but also, hey, if you ever want to take the gamble on American as the Doctor, look over here.
Stephen Moffat, give me a call. Yeah.
Yeah, it's Stephen Moffat.
Well, I mean, I think I said as much online, but I think if you're charging a low enough price that you're essentially just covering the cost of actually producing the DVD, I don't think you're going to get any heat from the BBC or anybody else. I think they've got a pretty strong look the other way, unless somebody's obviously making a $scabillion off of something.
On it, yeah.
Yeah. Well, at one point you had posted some pretty intriguing ideas for like 4 or 5 more episodes. And how are those things developing? And are you looking towards shooting episode 2 anytime soon?
Well, right now, because me and Pete work so tirelessly on this Doctor Who project, we've frankly been living and breathing it for a while.
Yeah.
We're going to jump. I wrote another script, another independent project about. And I can go ahead and say it. The project's called Disciple of Chaos, and I like to describe it as a Christopher Nolan-esque retelling of the origin of Harley Quinn.
Okay.
Now I know that there's a lot of other ones who've been trying it their own way, but I'm just doing it my own way, for giggles, because on the convention circuit I cosplay as the Joker, and I do the whole voice and everything like that. So I'm like, all right, I got it. Let's use it. Yeah. Right around what you got.
Right.
And what I've got is a great Joker costume and willingness to look like a complete psycho. And Pete, of course, is a colossal DC Comics fan. He loves, and we both unanimously love The Dark Knight.
Right.
So we were like thinking, well, obviously now that poor Heath Ledger, God rest him, is no longer with us, obviously we're not going to be able to see the Joker again, and obviously with that we're not going to see Harley Quinn on film anytime soon. And we're like thinking, man, wouldn't Harley Quinn be freaky in Nolan's universe?
Yeah, that would be cool.
So it's just a little something just to kind of give us. But we've already casted, and right now we're in the midst of location scouting.
Okay.
Right now, and we're still in pre-production. It's going to take some time. But that's the next thing. But yeah, then after that, we're going to jump headlong into our next, our full-blown series of Doctor Who. Right now, I'm in the midst of finishing the 4th script of the series, and I've already gotten the synopses for the next 2 for the rest of the series and the next series. And the beginning and the only thing I'll reveal is that at the end of the first series, Jessica will leave.
Yeah.
And but that will not be the last time we see her.
Okay.
Yeah, I will not tell you how. Yeah, that's for.
Oh, go on. Spoil the whole surprise for 6 episodes in.
Yeah, and then the next series, you'll meet the Doctor will meet a very spunky camera woman / photographer named Madeline Cale.
Okay.
Yeah. And I'm not going to tell you how that happens, but that's what she is. She's a camera woman / aspiring photographer. And I'm like thinking, well, what better opportunity for a photographer than to travel through time and space and see all these alien vistas?
Right.
Yeah. So
excellent. I like the sound of that. Yeah, I definitely look forward to more from your team. Like I said, I think I said as much online, but it's definitely one of the most impressive ones I've seen in recent years. I liked it quite a bit, and I thought the script was head and shoulders above most fan films I've seen. It had there was a nice quality to the writing that seemed just definitely a cut above.
Oh, thank you so much. I mean,
don't want to give you one of those awkward compliments that you're so bad at taking.
Yeah, no. I'm learning. I'm rehabilitating. And that's great because, like I said, this is the first time anything I've ever written has actually been full-blown produced and now out there amongst the world. So it means a lot that evidently people dig what I do. So and if anything else, it's given me the full-blown motivation to keep doing it.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I guess that's a good enough place to finish. And John, thanks for coming and being my very first guest on my new Fan Film Follies podcast.
Thanks for choosing me to be your first guest.
Hey, it's you said yes, so it was great. But man, take care, and like I said, looking forward to your next production, man.
And I'm looking forward to giving them to everybody, to letting everyone see it.